Hello there, hope you're well. Today is the fourth week of our intensive knitting in the round workshop, and we are going to first finish the hand warmer and then we're going to turn the heel on our socks. So first of all, we've got our hand warmer here. Last week we were increasing the thumb. You can see that lovely increases here on the thumb. On this side, on the left hand side of the marker, we were doing left leaning increases, so all these stitches look like they come out of nowhere. And then on the right hand side of the stitch marker, we've been doing right leaning increases. And I am knitting the adult small of the Friends Knits pattern. I've done 5 increases and I've got 1 more to do. So I thought I would just catch up from there, just to remind how to do those left leaning and right leaning increases, and then we will separate the thumb from the hand. I've got these cute little needle stoppers from the Wool Factory in Skegness. These are really good ones. They're nice and rubbery and they really stick on. Not sponsored by any means, they were selling them for charity, so they had a big jar to choose them from. So I've got what I like to do is when I increase, I put a stitch marker on the increase row. So if I need to put my works down at any time, I will know whether I'm on an increase row or not. So I've done 5 increase rows. I've got 1 more to do. So I just need to knit 2 rows now, and then I'm ready to increase again. So I'll go ahead and do those, and then I'll come back to you to do those last 2 increases. Okay, here we are. I have knitted another 2 rows after the stitch marker, and I'm going to do my final increase row for the thumb. So we're just going to knit to marker, slip the marker from left needle to right needle, and we are on the left hand side of the stitch marker, so we're going to do a left leaning increase, and we're just going to pick the bar between the stitches. That is from the previous row, yarn used on the previous row that links the 2 stitches together. So we're going to pick it up from front to back, and you can see the stitch is leaning to the left on the needle, and we're going to knit it through the back, through the little twist, so that it is nice and tight and won't create a hole. And then we'll knit across the stitches that we have already increased for the thumb. This started with 3 stitches at the base here, and then we've increased on both sides. And depending on your size, you'll have a different amount of stitches, but I will now have 15 stitches for the widest part of the thumb here. Or soon, I've got 1 more to increase. Okay, so we're approaching the second stitch marker now, and we're on the right hand side of the stitch marker, and we're doing a right leaning increase. So we're picking the bar from back to front, and now you can see the stitch is leaning to the right. We're knitting it through the front, through that little twist there, and again it'll create a nice tight little start for that stitch and won't create a hole. And I'll just go ahead and knit to the end of this row or round, and then I will knit another 2 rows, and then the thumb is done, and we will place it on barber waiting for it to be knitted whilst we knit the hand. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back to you when I've knitted the last 2 rows of the thumb. Here we are. We have done 6 increase rows followed by 2 plain rows on the hand warmer now. and we've always increased on the inside of these stitch markers, which you can clearly see there. We started with 3 stitches here, and then we've always increased on the inside, so the outside number of stitches has always stayed the same. So that's all done now. What we're going to do now, we're going to place the thumb on some barber cord, or you could place it on waste yarn, and we're going to knit the hand first because we're going to separate it now. So what we'll do, we'll knit the marker. We'll knit the marker here. And we will remove the marker, and we'll place the thumb stitches here on waste yarn or on barber cord. I haven't trimmed that end, it's fraying a little. I should have trimmed it before I started, but this end is fine. I'm going to push that in. I noticed this end is a little bit frayed here, so the stitches might stick on it a little. So I'm going to use the other end instead. Normally I just trim maybe 1 millimeter off the end with scissors there to make sure this is nice and smooth. I'll just place these on some barber cord. I like barber cord because it's easy to just slip on and off the needle, and I'll just push those ends of the barber cord inside the hand warmer so that they won't get in my way. There they are. Oops, dropped my stitches there. There should be 4 stitches there. Just drop that last one, so I'll just go ahead and knit that again. So I've got 4 stitches there. We place the thumb stitches on barber cord, and now we are going to remove the other marker as well, and we're going to cast on 3 stitches here, because at the base of the thumb we borrow 3 stitches from the hand onto the thumb, so we need to cast them on again. Otherwise we're going to lose some stitches on the thumb, so we're going to use the backwards loop cast on method. So you just use your right needle and your thumb, you wrap the yarn around your thumb and you create a little crisscross there. Just put your needle through the crisscross and tighten it. Create a little crisscross, and that's how you can slip a stitch onto the right needle. So we've got the 4 stitches we always had there, and now we've got 3 new stitches, and we're back to the original amount of stitches now, and we're going to work we're just going to knit all the stitches for X amount of rows depending on your size. Give that first stitch a nice tight tug there. We're just going to carry on knitting. As per usual, I'm playing yarn chicken, so let's see if I've got enough yarn to finish this hand warmer. This is all the yarn I've got left. But yeah, what we'll be doing now, we're just going to go round and round in stockinette for a few rows, depending on your size, between 4 and 8 rows. And then we're going to return back to 3x1 ribbing. We're going to do a few rows of 3x1 ribbing. Then we're just going to cast this off in pattern, and then the hand is done. This end is very, very quick because you've only got a handful of, or 2 handfuls of rows to knit. Just to knit from there to there. Okay, that's the first row done. I'm just going to show you the second row, because this is what it will look like. So here's the first row after we've joined the hand together with those backwards loop cast on stitches. You have knitted the first 4, and these are the new stitches. So you just knit them as if they were normal stitches, and then the hand is joined together. And what I will do, I will just go ahead and knit to the end of this hand, and then we can get it cast off and move on to the thumb. Okay, I have lost at Yarn Chicken, but the good job is that I have been knitting these handwarmers in tandem, so I've got 2 on the go here. I was knitting one from the one end of the ball and the other one from the other end of the ball, and now all the yarn I've got is what's connecting these 2 handwarmers together, which is not enough to complete these. This one I've done 6 rows of stockinette, and I've got 5 rows of 3x1 rib into 2 cast off, and then the thumb. And this one I'm a little bit behind. I've just done the cable cast on there and 1 row on top of that, so I'm a little bit behind there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my needle into that first row of stockinette to secure the stitches. I wish I had a lifeline there, but anyway, I haven't. I'm gonna use my little 2mm sock needle. I'm gonna insert that in there, secure these stitches. I'm gonna cut the ribbing off and unravel it, use it to finish the hand and the thumb, and then I'm going to come back and knit whatever ribbing I can. So I might just have a short ribbing. I'll probably need most of this yarn from the ribbing for my rest of the thumb. So this isn't part of the course, but occasionally happens. So I'm just going to show you how to unravel it. You can't unravel work from this end because it's knitted from here to there. So what I'll have to do, I'll have to secure the stitches here, cut this bit off, and then I can unravel it from top down. And I'm going to pick the right leg, or left leg, then they're in the right way. I'm going to pick left leg of each stitch on that first, this might actually be second row of stockinette. And then I'm going to cut it off, rejoin, so I should have 36 stitches when I finish. 2, 4, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. I'm just going to turn the work and then pick up 18 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. There we have it. Right, and just grab a pair of scissors and cut that off. I've got my little embroidery scissors there, but I don't think they're quite... I've cut through probably some paper with those, and they're not very sharp anymore. I need to sharpen them. So I've got my daughter's craft scissors here. So I'll literally just cut it off. As close to those stitches as I can, but try not to cut them. There we are. Here's some yarn. Right, we just need to unravel these. It's really hard to unravel this row because they are knitted in the opposite direction, but all the stitches should be secured there. Let's see if I can cut through anything with this. Pull all these loops out, so I didn't lose too much yarn. It's just these. There's maybe one row, but all the yarn sort of goes through the stitch, so if they're a little bit too long, there's one really long one there that I won't be able to pull out. Is there one stitch that I've gone through the wrong leg? Looks like it's twisted. We'll worry about that later. Hopefully there's enough to finish both hand warmers here. If not, I'll have to do the same on the other one. Okay. I think I might have gone on to the row below there on that one. Yeah, there's just the last 4 stitches I picked up on the row below, so I'll use this yarn to knit them up, and then I can start doing my ribbing downwards. But yeah, all the stitches are standing the right way because I've always picked the left leg. There, that's ready to knit down. But anyhow, now we're knitting this in both directions. Okay, so all the yarn I had left was what's attached to this other hand warmer. So I'm just going to cut that off and concentrate on finishing one, and then I will finish the other one. So what I normally do is I do a magic knot. Right, we just have to find the end on this side now. So these cuffs will be a bit shorter than in the pattern, but they'll still be completely usable hand warmers. But yeah, sometimes you use yarn chicken and you have to be creative how to finish your project. So this is what I did today. Here now it's running smoothly. So I've got some curly yarn here. You could wash this or steam it or straighten it, but I'm just going to knit it in. The stitches will look a bit bumpy lumpy, but they will just straighten out in the first wash. Okay, so I'm going to do a magic knot to join this yarn together. So I'm going to knot the new yarn, the wrinkly yarn, around the old yarn, tie a knot. Now I'm going to use the old one, tie a knot around the new yarn, which is all the wrinkly. Now I'm going to pull together, and the harder you pull these, the tighter the knot gets. So now I can go ahead and knit the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can go ahead and knit 5 rows of 3x1 ribbing, and I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll get back to you then. What I like to do to keep track on my rows is, on the first row of stockinette, on the first stitch, I put a stitch marker there, so that I only need to count to that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had done 6 rows of stockinette there, and now I'm putting a stitch marker on the first row of 3x1, on the first stitch of the first row of 3x1 ribbing, so that I only need to count down to this stitch to knit 5 rows. There we are. I've finished 5 rows of 3x1 ribbing. You can see them there. My thumb is there. There's some fluffy bits here from unraveling the work. My thumb is there, the ends of my barber cord are nicely tucked in, and my magic knot is just there from rejoining the yarn. If I was knitting stockinette, I would use the weaving Stephen techniques to weave these in as if when I was knitting, but I was in the ribbing section. So when I come to weave the ends in, I will weave these ends into that, what on the right hand side is a purl column. I will just weave them into that knit column. When I'm in ribbing, I don't like to weave ends in this way. I always weave them in that way. So that column is perfectly there to weave them in, and I'll show you how to do that. But I'll just tuck them in for now. There. A little bit short actually, those ends to weave in, but anyhow, there we are. So we're just gonna cast off in pattern. So we knit 2, pull the first stitch over the second one, knit the next one, pull the first stitch over the second one. We come to the purl column here, so we're gonna purl that stitch and then pull the first stitch over the second one. Now we're on some knit stitches. So what cast off in pattern means that you knit the knit stitches, you purl the purl stitches, and then you pull the first stitch over the second one. So there, we're just going to cast that off, and then we can move on to finishing the thumb. There we are. I didn't even unravel this cuff. I'm knitting straight from the cuff. But yeah, this is not part of the pattern. This is just what happened because I lost that yarn chicken. I ran out of yarn. Okay, that's the purl one. Pull it over, and then when you come to the corner, we just hold on to this last stitch. Just pull the magic loop, and now sort of make this first stitch part of here. So knit 1, pull it over, knit 1, pull it over, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, knitting the knits and purling the purls. Knit 1 more, purl the last one, pull it over, and then pull a big loop. Make sure you don't lose that and unravel the yarn. Cut the yarn, and then just pull the tail end through that big loop to secure it. And then at the end, when we get the darning needle out, we can just weave that in. But that's the hand finished. And now there's a funky stitch there. That's where the magic knot is at the back. So we just need to tighten that a little bit. That's better. Yeah, that's the hand sort of finished. We have to go back and re-knit the ribbing. But yeah, the top of the hand is now finished. Thumb is ready to pick up again. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this thumb back on the needle. And I've got 15 stitches here. So I'll just pop it back, pop the barber cord back on the needle, pull it through. It doesn't matter where your turn is, about halfway but we're going to pick up some new stitches anyway. So just where it likes to go, pull a loop there, just a tiny little magic loop here, and then we're going to pick up 5 stitches from this gusset. There's 3 stitches that we've cast on. You can see them leaning here nicely. 1, 2, 3. These 3 are the ones that we cast on, and now we're going to just pick up an extra one on either side to avoid holes. These places are notorious for holes appearing. So that's the first actual stitch. So we're going to pick up a stitch from somewhere around here. It doesn't matter which one you pick, but I wouldn't pick this one. This will create a hole. You can see it creates a big hole. So pick up a nice tight stitch. I will pick up this one. This nice tight. When you pull it, it's not getting bigger and bigger and bigger and creating a hole. So I'm going to pick that one, and then I'm going to pick these 3 that we cast on there, and then I'm going to pick one from this corner as well. There's one, but you don't want to pick this one. That's going to make a huge hole there. So pick up doesn't matter which one you pick, something that will just tighten that corner and avoid creating a hole. That's a good one there, I reckon. And then we knit to the end. Oh, I picked them up with the wrong way on the wrong needle. Let's try again. So, I don't know how I managed that. Yeah, this nice tight one. Then the 3 that we cast on. And then let's pick up another tight one. They might have loosened up a bit now because I've been yanking them. Let's try and pick up a different one. Maybe that one from there. Not happy with that one. That's a good one. And then we just knit to the end. So we should have 2, 4, 5 stitches there to start with. So that's the beginning of the round. So I've got the first 5 stitches, that's the beginning of the round. So I'll just put my loop on there. You could put a stitch marker there to mark that that's the beginning of the round. But I just loop my magic loop on there. But that's the first stitch of the round. And we just pick them up and we start knitting from the existing stitches. And those extra stitches that we picked up, we're going to decrease them away on the next round so that our thumb's not too big, but we just pick them up to avoid any holes appearing in there. I'll just tuck that tail end in. Should there be a hole in there, we can always use that to tighten any big gaping holes. So this, I'm back at the beginning of the round because I placed the marker there. And now we're gonna do slip, slips, knit to decrease that extra stitch away. So it's slip one knitwise, slit it with another one knitwise, and then put them back on the needle and knit through. Then we're gonna knit 1 and knit 2 together. And now we're back to 3 stitches in that gusset. And then we're gonna knit to the end, knit another 2 rows, and Then we're going to do another little decrease just to shape that thumb. So let me just knit to the end of this row, and then I will knit rounds 3 and 4. Okay, on round 5 we're going to do one more decrease just to shape this bit. So we're just going to decrease a little bit more here where your thumb comes in, just to make it nicely shaped. So we're going to knit 3 on round 5. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to knit 2 together, and then finish the round, and that will shape the thumb, and the wind will go inside your hand warmer then. And we are back to 16 stitches. So let's see if I've got 8 on each needle. I didn't really count. I think I've got 9 on this needle and 7 on the other needle. So I might just balance those out. So I've got 8 stitches on each needle. And now we'll just do X amount of rows of 3x1 ribbing, depending on your size, and then we'll bind it off. So that's the thumb nearly done. So I'll go ahead and finish the thumb. For my size, I will, oh sorry, this is 1x1 ribbing, just to give that thumb a nice tight edge so that the wind won't go in. We'll finish the thumb in 1x1 ribbing. And for my sizes, I'll do 4 rows of 1x1 ribbing, and then I will cast it off or bind it off in pattern. So I'll just go ahead and knit those 4 rows. I'll just put a stitch marker there. So that was the last row of stockinette, and on top of that I'll just go ahead and knit 4 rows of 1x1 ribbing. We've knitted 4 rows of 1x1 ribbing on top of that stitch marker there. I love using stitch markers. It's just so easy to keep track where you are. Some people like ticking it on a piece of paper, but I can't be trusted to remember to tick it. So I prefer stitch markers. You can clearly see what's going on and what's happening where. So now we're just going to cast off in pattern. So we're knitting the knit stitch, purling the purl stitch, pulling the first stitch over the second one, then we're knitting, pull, purl, pull, knit, pull, purl, pull, knit, pull, and purl and pull. And then we're just gonna join this together. We're just gonna loose the magic loop now, and then we can join it all and carry on casting off. So knit, pull, purl, pull, knit. If you're a very tight knitter, you might want to go up a needle size for casting off. So on the right hand side needle you would have a size bigger needle so that you can get your thumb through that opening. I've become a very loose knitter, so I don't have that issue anymore, but I always used to cast off with a 1mm bigger needle. And the last one, pull a big loop and then cut the yarn and pull it through the big loop, and that is the hand warmer done. We've just got the ends to weave in, and because I ran out of yarn chicken, I just need to cut down reknit that cuff. So let's take the stitch markers out. They are all done with now. That's nearly like a rainbow there. Yeah, I like using locking stitch markers for marking my rows, but if I have a stitch marker on my needle, I like the round ones for that, so they're not catching, but these locking ones are great for marking rows on the actual work. Just pull it a bit because those stitch markers might have pulled the work. Let's check for holes around the thumb. Easiest way to do that is to put it on. It's pretty neat there. There's no holes in there, but if there were holes, we can use this tail end to tie them in. Let me just grab my darning needle. I'll weave those ends in. There it is. I like a nice, fat, quite a long darning needle and always blunt. When I'm darning the ends in, weaving the ends in, I don't like to split the yarn, so I like a really blunt, really fat darning needle. That's my favourite. I've had a big pack of these and I'm on to my last one, so I need to find some new ones. But I like to buy them in the shop where you can actually see what you're buying. It's hard to tell online. So here is the end of the row and the beginning of the row, and they're at different level because when we're knitting in the round, it is like we're knitting a spiral. So what I tend to do, I go into the back of that first stitch and tighten it through there. And then I tie a little, go through one of these stitches and go through the loop and just give it a nice tug and tighten it so that those ends will join together. And then if I've got purl stitches, I like to go through the V's to down my yarn in. On these knit columns on this side, purl columns on the right. And if I've got ribbing, I always like to go vertically, not horizontally. That'll be enough. I'll leave a couple of millimeters there in case things move around in blocking, so I don't want that end to pop out. Here's the weaving here's the magic knot. I didn't do weaving Stephen because I'm on ribbing. Left a bit of a short end. Again, I go through those one side of the V's there. Oh, it slipped out, so let's pop that back in. Yeah, it was a bit of a short end I left there. There we are. Trim the end. Leave a couple of millimeters again and then trim the other end and just go through those. Oh, I've already gone out that side. Let's go on to this side. There we are. Doesn't have to be too long, it's just to keep them in place. We've already got a magic knot there, so they're not going to unravel. Just needed to keep them in place. And got one more to do is the thumb stitch. For the thumb, I like to turn it inside out. Both ends of the thumb. So let's do the top one first. Again, here you can see that I don't know if you can see that. The end of the row is much taller than the beginning of the row because, like I said, when we're knitting in the round, we're knitting a spiral. So that does happen. So I will go through the first stitch there. I go through that loop to make a little knot so I can give it a right good tug and tighten it before I weave that end in. So I might just go through these V's here. One more. There we are. Some people go back and forth 3 times, but I think that's a bit excessive. I've never had work unravel. But what you do you, whatever you prefer to do. I suppose better safe than sorry. And now I can see a couple of holes here. This side's okay, but I can see a couple of holes there when I put my finger through there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this end. Luckily I've left a nice long end. I just tighten these up by weaving in round here. Again, I'm going to use nice tight stitches to go round so that I'm not creating new holes by darning in. And that's it. You can't see it. There was two big gaping holes before. They've all disappeared. Doesn't need much, just a little weave in there, and then I will just weave this end in. Might just go up a couple of these columns here, and I don't want that end to be potentially poking through from the top of the thumb hole, so I'll just go back down a few so that it's pointing down and not up. There we are. Trim that off. Leave about 5 mil there, and there, that is finished. And there you have it. We have a nicely shaped thumb. We'll keep the wind in. It's nice and snug around the fingers as well. And then I'll just go on ahead and I'll finish the top of the other hand warmer, and then I will need to cut this cuff off as well. And then what I'll do, I'll knit these cuffs back down 2 at a time so that I can use all the yarn up and not lose that yarn jigging again. So there, the hand warmers done, and now we can go and turn the heel on our socks.